Yeah, so my name is Zach Carlson, my wife Amberly Carlson, and we are the owners of Sagebird Ciderworks in the north end of downtown Harrisonburg. Um, so I am the cider maker, um, and this will be my kind of full-time thing. I'll be here all the time. And Amberly,
I am kind of a little bit of everything right now.
Sure.
I'm social media for Sagebird and kind of like painter and cleaner, and I'm working through a ton of like our policies and detail work. Um, but I am also a teacher, so I'm gonna kind of head back to school in a month,
Okay.
and that some of those responsibilities will kind of spread out a little bit more, but I still hope to be as involved as I possibly can.
Sure. Okay, cool. And as you mentioned, you're a painter. You did the mural in the background, which Zach, you actually designed, right? Is that how it went?
yeah, so Amberly ended up drawing that up, but it fits very much with, it's very similar to mountains that we have on our label.
Got it.
So obviously we're, we're, we're in the mountains, and a lot of our culture and our brands and even our flavors, are about place and about where we are, and highlighting where we are and showcasing where we are and what we're proud of, in this area. So mountains are, overdone in a lot of ways, but it's our life here.
Yeah,
It's great. Yeah, it's beautiful, and I think it ties in really well because, like you were alluding to, that's your theme for your cider, right? I mean, can you talk a little bit about what that's all about with how it's local?
Yeah. So I guess we can start at the beginning about, what is
Sure.
cider and kind of what we're trying to do with that. So we are obviously opening a cidery. We'll be making hard cider, from exclusively Virginia apples. So a lot of folks have experience with cider. I know it was kind of our introduction to the world of alcohol. We started with woodchuck and similar. Which is good. Um, a lot of people's familiarity and kind of understanding of cider is a sweet alcoholic apple juice, which, it's been that for a while, but there's so much more that can be done with cider. So a lot of our ciders, are going to be more dry. They're going to drink more like a dry white wine, with that level of complexity. Um, and we understand that people certainly want sweet cider still, so we'll have that available,
Sure.
uh,
Sure.
and do that as well as we can. But we really want to push kind of the drier, more complex side of cider. So in terms of local, all of our apples are going to be coming from Winchester, an orchard called Glaze Apples up there. They grow a lot of eater apples, but they've also invested over the last few years in, a good bit of acreage of more traditional cider style apples. So 100% of our apples will be coming from Virginia, from about an hour up the road. And then in terms of flavor infusions and things like that, we really want to work with, uh, fruits and flavors that you could have traditionally gotten in this area. So things like blackberries and raspberries, but also some more forgotten fruits like mulberries, pawpaws, persimmons, um, just again to highlight where we are, the taste of this area specifically.
I
That,
love that.
things like guava are delicious. Guava is great in a cider too. There are a number of cideries throughout the state that make a really nice guava cider. Um, you can't get a guava in the mountains of the Shenandoah Valley.
Right.
It doesn't grow here, so we're not going to work with that. And there's limitations there, but there's also a lot of freedom, and it also pushes you to explore and what did people do when you couldn't get a guava? you know?
Sure, that's awesome. I love that. And you were mentioning a little bit about how you're kind of going after like a dry white wine, and we had talked earlier, and one of the things I found really fascinating was kind of the relationship or how you found cider to be kind of this in between like beer and wine, and how it is kind of a wine. I'm probably butchering this. I'll let you talk about it, but I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. Cider's in a weird place, in a weird place legally, weird place kind of in the consumer's mindset. But we are legally a winery. We're a farm winery, Virginia farm winery. So we could make a Merlot here if I knew how and have trips. But so, any fermented fruit, according to the government, is wine. So cider is a wine, but it tends to be a lower ABV, and it tends to have some level of carbonation at least. And in that way, it's consumed more like a beer. So it does, it rides kind of down that middle, which is beneficial, and also can be detrimental to us. It's beneficial in that we can kind of capture both markets. We can play with flavors that would have been traditionally in beer, things like hops, things like darker, molasses and kind of those darker, heavier flavor profiles. We can work with that. We can also work with flavor profiles that are traditionally wine, the bright floral stone fruits and things like that. And you can make cider in styles that attract both of those sides.
That makes a lot of sense.
The flip side of that is oftentimes people in retail markets and elsewhere don't know where to put you. I've heard people say, I really like that cider beer. It's like, well, that's not like, those are technically two very different things.
I've definitely heard that before.
Right. And I think that speaks to kind of how some people think about cider. So, we've got, it's beneficial. There's also, I think, we've got work to do in terms of education and kind of elevating the general common knowledge of cider and what it can be, what it should be, in the way that craft beer has worked for years to build that in kind of general cultural knowledge. And when you say IPA, people know what that means at this point. But that was not always the case, and so we've got work to do there.
Sure. No, absolutely. I remember that moment when I first had an IPA and experienced that. Might have been a Jack Brown's, I'm not sure, but it was definitely, what is this? So yeah, that's exciting. That's a lot of fun. And I've definitely always thought about cider as more of a sweet thing. And I've tasted some more recently, some of the more craft ones that have been awesome. Some hoppy ones, which I like, and it's really cool. Yeah.
It's kind of the Wild West, I think, right now with cider, and there's just a wide open frontier. There's a lot that's been done. Cider is actually a very old beverage. I always thought about cider as kind of like, again, your introductory alcohol, but cider was the original colonial alcoholic beverage. Beer didn't really start to gain prominence in the United States until shortly after the Civil War. There was a pretty large German immigration, and they were bringing much more beer with them, and kind of that was what they were used to and what they were looking for.
Interesting.
But prior to that, the colonists had an affinity for alcohol all around, but cider was kind of their go-to beverage.
Which it's more common in England, right? I mean, people drink it in Great Britain.
Yes, yeah. I mean, there's very much a cider culture in much of Europe, and they have different ciders. We make what would be called a New World cider, or an American style cider. Our apples tend to be higher acid, and so our ciders tend to be more tart.
Interesting.
If you have like a UK cider or a French cider, like ciders from the Normandy area, they're very sub-acid, where it doesn't have that kind of zing that we're used to with an apple.
Okay.
It's got apple flavor, but it's very muted. And muted might be the wrong word, because muted I think implies bad, but it's or flavorless. But it's just a completely different flavor profile.
Interesting.
But that's what they drink there, and that cider culture has been there for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. It's you can tell whenever you watch anything from England. Like, I mean, there's definitely they're cider drinkers, right? I mean, which is awesome that we are missing out on that. For the most part. I mean, you know, I think I love that we have the awesome brewery scene that we have here, and now we're getting into a whole new scene. So it's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of the change too is in the United States, cider's been seen as feminine, I think. Not always, but I've certainly encountered that understanding of cider as feminine because it's not an IPA, because it's easier to drink, you know.
And most
Right. They're often sweeter in the way that certain cocktails would be considered feminine because they have fruit juices or things like that. I think they're delicious, but they're, but you look at places like France or the United Kingdom or Ireland, and cider is not, there's no kind of gender to cider. There's no scorn associated with it there. And so I think
the soccer hooligans are all out drinking a lot of cider.
We've talked to folks from the UK, and they're talking about like, that's if you want to kind of have a wild time, you drink some cider and then you go to the football game.
Awesome. I guess tell us a little bit about the space. So the space that you got off of Big L tires, right? It was a kind of a second. How many bays again? Was it 3 bays, 4 bays?
We have 3. There were originally 5.
Okay.
So we took over 3 of them. 1 bay is our production right on site. And then 2 bays we've turned into a tap room. And then we kind of made a back door. So we have this awesome outdoor kind of cider garden space with this giant cliff right on the edge of it. So you kind of feel kind of secluded. And
it's a really cool spot. What a unique gem. And this will be paired with pictures, so people can definitely see some of that and everything. But it's really cool. I'm excited about spending evenings there, and outdoor space is always great in these times. So
I think it's obviously with COVID happening, people feel safer outside, and I mean research is saying you are safer outside.
Right.
So. We're excited to be able to utilize that space and still be able to have people here responsibly, and excited for that opportunity that it provides us.
And even our indoor taproom space has a giant bay door because it was a car garage, so we updated the door, and so it can feel really open and outside, even if you're inside.
Which is super cool. I guess the other thing that is really cool about you all is we talked about some of the artistic stuff, but there's also all the graphic design with the merch. You want to talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so I was a graphic designer for 6 years before launching into this. I worked for a company called Mod Displays downtown, and so I mean that's kind of my background is graphic design, and so we did all of our branding. We've done most of the design of the space with assistance from our friends Keenan and Chelsea Rowe. They've been phenomenally helpful, but we've definitely use kind of our backgrounds and put those very much into this space. Amberly, I don't know if you want to talk about your contributions.
Well, I was an art minor in college, and I do a ton of painting now, so that's kind of what I've been able to really bring. So I've done the murals, and then there's another mural in the bathroom that kind of have just made it a lot more, at least in our opinion, like us. We built and painted and scraped and stained and sanded everything in this space. We've gotten our hands into everything, and we love it. That's what we want to do.
Right.
But it makes the space even that much more special to us.
Yeah, at least to us. I mean, this place it's a labor of love, where we have built almost all of this ourselves, and we're super proud of that. And I think that's part of our culture, part of our brand, and
it's so downtown Harrisonburg. I mean, Harrisonburg downtown doesn't have chains, and that's what I think all love, is that there's unique things that come. And I think that's why I like talking to people directly like this, because you can just feel the passion and the all the love that goes into every detail, and it's awesome. And it's not something you normally get to do. Like, you might, if it's a slow day, drink a beer or drink a cider and talk to somebody, but probably not going to get in this kind of detail, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we love talking about
it. So you all also have some of the ash trees, right, from Westover Park?
Yeah.
Tables.
We do, just one.
Or the bar or something. What is it over there? Yeah, that.
Yeah, we've got a bar up front, just kind of an auxiliary bar there, that is made from a slab from an ash tree from Westover Park. With the emerald ash borer, and the city and the state, I mean, everywhere trying to kind of get a handle on that.
Right.
A lot of trees came down. So it's cool to see the city and other folks trying to, there's a big push to reuse that wood. I know that it's been used in a number of spaces around town. I think Magpie uses some. And then I want to even say the planters, like in front of Finnegan's, were made out of those.
Oh yeah, that was Rocktown Urban Wood as well, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we're excited to bring that in and have that little piece. And I wish that those trees could still be there.
Sure.
But if they have to come down as we try and get a hold of and get control of the pest, we're excited to use it.
Yeah. Cool. I guess opening date, is there a target that we don't, we won't hold you to 100%, or what can we look forward to? We need our mouths to start watering.
Yeah, trying to open toward the end of August. We're really trying to get open before August ends. Our tap room's really ready. We're just waiting on cider. So cider, that's another kind of way that it's like wine and different from beer, is that it takes time. So it takes a couple weeks to ferment, and then technically you could drink it right then and it would probably taste fine. But it's going to get better as it sits and ages and clarifies, and the longer you can give it, the better it's going to be, just because all of these flavors start coming together that weren't there when it was first done being fermented.
Okay.
So we're trying to give it some time. We'd like to give it, as much time as we can, but we also are really excited to open and share what we have. So our target is like kind of that last week of August, but yeah, don't hold us to that.
All right. I'll be showing up regardless.
Yeah. You can always peek in the window.
Yeah, we'll be here either way.
Right, we'll be here. But yeah, shooting for the end of August, and
it's looking good though.
It is looking good.
We pulled some of our cider that's aging right now, and the flavors are getting better, and you're starting to really be able to see through that glass. Because when you get regular apple cider, it's that caramel color and it's really opaque, and as it ferments and then as all of that settles down to the bottom, it becomes this like golden color, and it's close. We were really encouraged yesterday as we got to see that.
That's good.
Yeah, and part of it, we're not filtering our cider. So traditionally, wine has been filtered, and wine that's anything less than crystal clear has traditionally been seen as faulty. That'd be something that somebody would pick up on if they were judging that wine. The hazy IPA thing has helped push that away a little bit. Again, cider rides that line between wine and beer, but also the pet nat thing in wine, with bottle conditioned wines that end up being a little bit sparkly. They have sediment in the bottom. That's going to be more our style of cider, where we're not filtering because we didn't like the waste that happened with filtering. But because of that, we need time, because time to help settle the yeast out and things like that. So we're just in that spot right now where we really want to get open. We need to get open. We've put a lot of time and energy, money into this, but we also want to open with something that we're proud of. So trying to push it in the ways that we can, but it's also like, until the cider's ready, we can't serve it.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I know we're all eager, so keep us posted. Is there social media stuff that we can follow, or what's the best way to kind of keep posted on it?
Yeah, definitely. We're at Sagebird Ciderworks on Instagram. And that's where you're going to really probably see the most kind of day-to-day behind the scenes when we're like digging in our garden or when we're just doing little stuff, because we'll have highlights and stories and then posts. But then also we have Facebook, Sagebird Ciderworks, that
sorry guys.
Look at him.
Yeah, sorry.
Facebook and Instagram.
We do have a website as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Check us out on all of those, and
we'll definitely link those.
A great job keeping up with that and keeping people updated. And there's a whole lot of behind the scenes stuff right there if you're interested in what goes into stuff inside.
Yeah, and then more of our story and more detail of where we began and where we hope to be is going to be on our website.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
And a lot of the apples that we use, I think Zach has made a whole page of like pictures of what kind of cider apples even look like, because they're just kind of ugly. They're not what you would think you would want to eat, but they taste great fermented.
That's why we drink.
So we're trying, that's another piece of our education part. We just want to get the word out about what cider can be, and our website is where we're kind of catch some people who maybe can't get here yet.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we'll I'll definitely check that out and make sure to link everything.
Sweet.
But yeah, cool. Thank you guys so much. And I will see you all soon.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having us. We look forward to it.
Bye.
See ya.
See ya.